Hi, I'm Debbie Harbeck, and I'm a certified life coach working with women in midlife and through the menopause transition. So each week, I'll be sharing the latest information, inspiration, and generate some momentum so you can move forward and feel more in control of your changing midlife body and your life. Let's go. Hi there, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm thrilled you're here with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today I want to speak directly to the part of you that wonders sometimes if it's just too late. So maybe like me, you feel sometimes like you need to accept your circumstances because you're just getting older. This is the way it is. And changing things maybe would turn everything upside down, not just for you, but for others. And is it really worth it? And isn't it just too late to create the body you want, or start a new career, or leave a relationship, or even fall in love again? And I am very familiar with that voice. It has shown up in my life, it continues to show up in my life. And sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's just in the background. You notice it, but sometimes it's really loud, and you hear yourself just thinking, what's the point? I've already made my choices. This is just how it is. But here's what I want to ask you today. What if it's not too late? What if this isn't just how it is? And what if it's never too late? That's a big question to contemplate because sometimes we feel stuck in these lives that we've built. They feel kind of solid, like we can't change them. They're like stone walls that we can't climb over. It's like a job you've had for 15 or 20 years, or a relationship where you've become more roommates than partners. And it's in the routines that you're in that sometimes feel unbreakable. And those identities that you've taken on, like caregiver and being the nice one, or the quiet one, or the reliable one. And here's the truth that I've learned myself and through others over and over again, that these walls, they are only as solid as a thought. That's it. You always have choices, even when it doesn't feel like it. And yes, those choices might mean leaving what's familiar to you. And they might mean walking into uncharted territory where you don't know exactly who you'll be or what the outcome will be. But isn't that really what makes life exciting? Isn't it the challenge that makes everything so fun and enjoyable? It's not the routine or the certainty that gets us going. It's that feeling of aliveness that comes when you take a risk, when you show up for yourself, when you remember that you are not done yet, because you're not. There is so much ahead of you. New people in your life, new passions to discover, a stronger body, a deeper connection with who you are and your purpose, maybe even a whole new chapter that blows your mind with how right it feels. I want to tell you just a quick story of a client of mine. I'll call her Linda. She came to me when she was 54, and she told me, she said, Debbie, I feel like I've missed my chance. I'm heavier, I'm more tired, and honestly, I just feel like I'm going through the motions in life. And I could really hear the defeat in her voice, like she was really beaten down by this. She was really believing that at 54, this was it. She couldn't see a way forward and out of her own routines and habits. But here's what happened when I asked her, what would you say to your 40-year-old self if she came to you saying this? If she came to you saying all these things you told me and that you don't see a way out? And she recognized right away what I was doing. And she had the realization that, maybe it's not too late. It's not too late to make the changes that would have her feeling more energized, like her life has renewed purpose and meaning, like she has time. And as long as she's living, she always has time to make changes that make her feel more alive. So as we worked together, she started simply by strength training. It was something that she felt would make her feel more powerful, and it did. She started writing again, something she hadn't done since she was in her 20s, and just made her feel free. And then she started dating just to see what was out there, just out of curiosity and maybe possibility. And 6 months later, she said to me, I feel alive again. I didn't think it was possible. And all of that because she asked the question, what if it's not too late? And it's so funny how this works. Our minds sometimes want to make us think that we'll have to change so much in our lives to get what we want. But what I've discovered is that it only takes one small change to give you motivation and energy to make other changes that right now may not seem possible at all. And of course, if you listen to this podcast, you know my own story of leaving my corporate job at 40 as an engineer in the aerospace industry. I wanted to start this business because I wanted to be of service. I wanted to provide health and wellness to women. This was what I felt was my calling, my purpose. But at the time, I was like, who do I think I am starting something new at 40 when I have all this responsibility on my shoulders? I had just gone through a divorce. I had young kids. I had a mortgage. I had a car. But that meaning, that desire for meaning in my life, that completely trumped the voice that was telling me it was too late. And I've said this before, but I bring it up again because I think thinking of the end of our lives helps here. We have to remind ourselves that we do not have an infinite amount of time here on the planet. Tomorrow is not guaranteed for you or for any of us. So it's really important to remind ourselves of that. And I know for some of us that feels like a morbid, scary thought, but at the same time, it wakes you up. And then there's the society that puts this fear in us that we should always be saving for retirement, for this future point, and that we should work hard now and play later. And the thing is, that later point, that may not happen. So you've got to take some risks now at this time in your life so that you feel alive in this moment, so that you do things that are important to you before you leave this earth. And of course, you know of the story of my mom who passed at 57. Yes, she was waiting for that future time. And I'm so glad that just 2 years before her death, we had saved some money. Me and my brothers and my grandmother got together and we sent my parents to Hawaii. And they had never been on a plane together in the 25 years they had been married. And they had the best adventure. They had such a great time. And I'm so thankful that we did that. We have to do things that are exciting today. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. But you just have to realize it's never too late to begin now. So I just want to share this short list of women who are inspiring, who can inspire you. They've inspired me, and they just show that it's never too late to start. So the first one is Julia Child. So if you grew up in the 70s and 80s like I did, you probably saw Julia Child on PBS. She was that queen of French cooking with her voice and this larger than life woman. She only started that at 50 and she just launched this whole new career in TV and culinary arts that made her a household name. And maybe you've heard of Vera Wang. She's a fashion designer, but she only entered fashion design at 40 and she only launched her brand when she was 50. And if you ever watch Little House on the Prairie, that came from the books written by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And she wrote that book when she was 65. And she just kept writing well into her 70s. And if you're thinking of your body, there's Ernestine Shepherd. She didn't start working out until she was in her late 50s, and she became the world's oldest competitive female bodybuilder in her 70s. And she still trains today in her 80s. And of course, there's Diana Nyad, who swam from Cuba to Florida. She was 64. Maybe you've seen the movie. I think it's on Netflix. So she tried this in her 20s and 30s, and then she finally completed that swim. It was 110 miles from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage, and she did it at 64. Amazing. And if you listen to my podcast, you may have heard episode 85 with Joan McDonald, who started working out at 70 and completely turned her life and health around. She was able to get off some of her medications, and all of these women just inspire us to see it's not too late. But you also don't want to wait. You want to start today. You want to start with one choice today in the direction you want to go. Maybe you want to look up that university class you'd love to take, or maybe you want to make a coffee date with a friend who's doing work that you're curious about, or maybe you want to try that new Nepalese restaurant, even though you have no clue what you're going to order, or maybe you just want to take a walk in a neighborhood you've been wanting to visit. You can do these things today. So I want to leave you with this. Don't trust the voice that says you've run out of time. Trust the one that's whispering, you are just getting started. And if you don't know what your next step is, you don't have to figure it all out today. Just take one small action that moves you closer to what excites you, even if it scares you a little. In fact, it should scare you a little if it's worth it. Maybe that's even reaching out to a life coach, even though you're not 100% sure what that will entail. And I happen to be one. Or maybe just take a deep breath and say to yourself, I am not stuck. I have choices, because you do, and it's not too late. So, thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with a friend. I'll be very thankful if you do. Please rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I would love that. And in the meantime, keep moving forward, and bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Midlife Momentum Podcast. If you want to learn more about working with me, come visit me at DebbieHarbeckCoaching.com. That's Debbie, I-E, Harbeck with a C, coaching.com. See you next week.